So, hi, Kim. Welcome. We want to hear your story. And I think that there you go. I'm going to let you go for it.
Hi, Sergio. Thanks very much for the opportunity. So the last co-heal I did was on Monday this week. And before the session, I did an hour's meditation because I wanted to be ready for the session. Again, I think some kind of ego involved there too, because I was thinking, now this is going to be the time that I'm going to have some kind of mystical experience. It was very lovely and I felt the love, and it's always very, very special. But again, nothing outlandish, nothing out of this world. And I wasn't going to speak because I'm very intimidated on the group. And I just feel that everybody in the group has got years of experience, and maybe I should listen rather than speak, and I'll learn something, which I always do from anyone who shares. But this time I was sort of prompted. Before I knew it, the microphone was on and I was speaking. And I remember Manu saying in one of the earlier sessions that for 8 years, he never felt anything, not in a meditation, not in a breath. He never felt anything because he's an engineer and he's very analytical, and he kept on analyzing and sort of trying to work out how it works rather than just to surrender to the process, surrender to the meditation, and to surrender to the breath. And it was on Monday where there was such a sense of clarity that something huge had happened to me. Without it being dramatic, without it being fireworks, but I had no fear. I had no fear. And I remember during the beginning of this lockdown, I was terrified because I have a yoga studio. And of course, we were open on level 1 ultimately. So we were going to be the last people to open. And I was terrified that I was going to lose my livelihood and not be able to support my son. And I just kept on coming to this group every day. And I kept on doing my meditations every single day, twice a day. And the most wonderful things started to happen. People were drawn to me. People just arrived from nowhere, offering to help me with a virtual website so that I could continue to teach yoga virtually, offering to pay for Vimeo so that I could record those videos and people could buy the recorded videos. People kept on donating money to the shala. I would just open my bank account and there was money there from nowhere. And people weren't even wanting recognition for it. So throughout those hideous months, and there were about 8 of them where I couldn't open the shala, and I was completely supported. This is a miracle, an absolute miracle, because I had no way of creating an income without me teaching yoga. And while online is okay, it's not like having the studio where there are many, many people coming in paying full rates. And eventually at the end, closer to the end, we were still on level 2. We were still not allowed legitimately, legally, to open the shala. And I just got this prompt in my meditation, and the voice just said to me, you've got to open. The people need yoga. You've got to open. And I remember sitting in prayer and just saying, it's up to you. I'm going to go there. And I'm going to open up and we're going to practice yoga, and you've just got to make me invisible. You've got to make us invisible to the rest of the terrified people. And just send me the people that aren't afraid. Send me the people that want to practice yoga. Send me the people that want to make a difference. Send me the brave people. Send me the courageous people, the people that are done with this. And I went back and we started with small classes. And then we just started getting more and more brave. And people just needed that. People needed to come to a place where they didn't have to be in that fear, in that place where everybody was judging them because they never had a mask on. And we just, from day one, I said, we're not practicing yoga with masks. The ultimate goal of yoga is an elevated state of samadhi, which is union with God, and that requires that we trust. Yeah. So Dr. Joe always says hope is a beggar. So hope is not a part of my life at all. So I just surrendered completely. And I just trusted completely that that Charlotte would be invisible to the rest of humanity. And that's what's happened. And it's through these meditations, and it's through this work, and it's through living the work, you know, as you think and as you feel creates your personality, and your personality creates your personal reality. So if you have a fearful personality, you're going to create a fearful personality. If you have a warrior mentality and you have faith in God, the supreme being, the divine, whatever you want to call it, and if you know that you are doing God's work, and if you know that what you are doing is right, despite what the environment is telling you, then how can you fail? Yeah, it's impossible to fail if you are protected by the divine. In fact, we are divine, having a human experience. But we say these things and it's platitudes, and we can repeat all of the dialogue, we can repeat all of the meditations, most of us, but that's useless if you come out of the meditation and you're still terrified, and you spread terror and you're spreading bad news. Well, then it's really not working, and we're wasting our time. So I realized on Monday when I started the share that, oh my word, this is dramatic. I have no fear. I have absolutely no fear, to the point where I surrendered, and I just thought, what must be, must be. But what we are doing is right. And we are allowing more love to come into the world. Every time we practice and we breathe and we sweat and we move together, we are creating community. We are in union. We are in one with each other. And that is a huge pebble in the vast pond, to use another analogy that Dr. Joe uses. That's a huge pebble being dropped into the pond. And those ripples of fearlessness ripple out and touch everybody. They touch the families of the people that are coming to yoga. They're changing our community, and more people are being drawn to our shala. And they come in there with deer eyes, deer in the headlights, with their masks on. And I leave them, and in a short space of time, they remember who they are. Yeah, and that fear drops. And maybe it's just for that hour that they are there practicing, but for that hour, we are magnificent, mystical, vast beings of light, having a human experience. And it's our choice in that moment to claim that heritage, to claim our right to be sovereign, to be the sovereign power in our bodies, the sovereign power in our minds. Nobody can control our minds. Nobody can control our hearts. We get to do that. And this is why we do this work. We do this work so that we can be free. Otherwise, what's the point? You're just spending hours and hours in meditation, and you can't translate that into your life. You are still creating a life of fear. You're still being terrorized by the environment. And if anything, this work teaches us that we are not the environment unless we choose for it to be a part of us. And we actually are creating that environment, you know, through our personalities, through our choices, through our thoughts. And on Monday too, I realized that my whole life, I've walked around, the way I can describe it is having a cage around my heart. And whenever I even did these healing sessions, I could never get rid of this tightness around my chest. It was like, I can just see it as a cage around my heart. And I think I can't tell you when that cage dissolved. There's no real time or exact point where I can tell you when that cage dissolved. But I know now there's no cage anymore. My heart is huge, and I love everybody, and I hug everybody, and I kiss everybody. And I always say that with immense power comes immense humility, because it's in that moment of power that you realize, of me, I'm nothing. There's just this huge power of love pouring through my body. And that's how I want to feel all the time. And when I teach, and when I'm in that place, and when I create that space where this fearful environment doesn't exist, then life is worth living. And I often hear people saying, it's when we give that we receive. When we give healing, we are healing. And for me, the healing has been so profound, but on such a subtle level, like a whisper rather than a shout. But it's layers and layers and layers of whispers. And then there's just this rebirth of this powerful, mighty being having a human experience through me. Yeah, that's where I'd like to leave it. Thank you to Dr. Joe. Thank you to Manu. Thank you to all the leaders in our Coheal group, to Sergio and Sveta and the rest of you. You're amazing. You come every day, twice a day, most of you. And we realize that, we recognize that. And those of us who can't make it every day, realize that you are still there day in and day out and changing the world, you know. This is how we change the world, whispering, not shouting.
What do you want others to learn from your experience and from this recording?
I think it's what most people who give a testimonial say, you know. Most people say, don't stop. And there are going to be times where you don't want to get out of bed. There are going to be times where you're not feeling well, where you're feeling sick, where you don't want to, and your ego's having a riot, a party in your head, and it's saying, this isn't working, and you're wasting your time, and it's hours every day. So to me, the message is just keep on doing it. Even when it feels like nothing is happening. It's impossible for nothing to happen, because you're having a date with the divine. Again, one of Dr. Joe's quotes. It's our date with the divine, and the divine does not miss any one of those dates. And maybe it's not evident in those dates or those occasions, but every single time there's a blessing. And then one day you have the realization that nothing is as it used to be. But sometimes it's subtle, sometimes it's not so subtle. But if you feel that nothing's happening, just keep on, because it has to happen. It has to happen.